Okay, today we talked about metals. Metals are really hard to define without just telling what their properties are. Metals are most of the elements in the periodic table. If you remember how many elements we shaded for the metals, it was almost the whole thing. A few elements to the right of the periodic table are not metal. So metals are most elements that we find. We need to talk about the properties of metals. We talked about luster, and luster being the ability of an object to reflect light, or its shininess. You can see the luster of my my board here. It's reflecting the light off of my camera. We also talked about conductivity. Metals conduct electricity and heat very well, and we talked about electrons moving along a wire, and it's because of the properties of metals that allow those electrons to be conducted along the wire. Imagine atoms of metals. What they're doing is they're taking electrons and they're passing it along the wire. That's how I always ask students to look at it. It also conducts heat very well. If you look in your kitchen, you have pots and pans, and they're all made of metal. The next thing that we talked about is malleability. That just means the ability to shape it into something else. Malleability. So you can manipulate it very easily. Some metals are so soft that you don't need to heat them up, and some metals you need to heat them up to manipulate them. But that's why our jewelry and things are made of metal, because it's malleable. And the last property that we talked about today was ductility, and that's the ability to stretch it into like thin wires. And if you think about it, metals are very ductile, which is why we use them in wires to conduct electricity. Okay, the next thing that we talked about was the trends in the periodic table, or patterns in the properties of the periodic table. And what I generally want you to get out of that is that the periodic table, let me just draw my caricature of the periodic table, and don't forget, it doesn't have to be precise. So there's a horrible rendition of the periodic table, and what you need to understand is that as you go to the left and down, metallic properties increase. Okay, and here's how I like to do it as a general rule. As you move this way, metallic properties increase. So an element over here on this side would have fewer metallic properties than an element on this side. And an element on at the top here would have less metallic properties than this down here. This guy would have the most. I think it's like francium or something. So you have to understand that metallic properties increase as we go from right to left and then from top to bottom. Another thing that I wanted to clear up was some terminology that you'll find. I know we talked about groups and group 1A, group 2A, telling you the valence electrons. What I need you to understand is that in a column, those are called groups, and sometimes referred to as families, okay? Groups are families. Families are groups that are related. So these guys in a column are groups or families. And then these guys in a row, we call them periods. But they're also referred to as classes. And here's how I remember this. In your periods in school, each period you have a different class. So in the rows, those are periods or classes. And in the columns, those are groups or families.